interesting because people always think artists and people who are into the arts and all these kind of topics are so emotional. They're these like really emotionally connected things. Whereas actually something I've been thinking a lot this week is like the writer's brain or like the artist's brain is actually quite a cold brain because you are thinking about the world in terms of symbols and form and structure and ideas and story instead of just being like in it with your whole chest and your like gut, you know? I'm just going through this weird era of my life where I'm like my brain has like finally understood that like I don't have to fear the fact that my actions have consequences. There's like this way in which I finally, like my brain has kind of finally gotten its head around the fact that like we are all immensely powerful. Bon dia! How are we doing? It's Tuesday. I'm good. I'm a little chaotic. My body's falling apart but my life is falling together. I haven't been filming very much. I accidentally got too much in my head about vlogs and was like they should have some sort of overarching structure or whatever. And I just don't have the mental space for that. So this is just going to be a kind of a chaotic hodgepodge of things. So strap in, have fun. Where to begin? In 2 days I'm traveling. I'm working on this writing project, this book, whatever. And a lot of it's about classical music, a lot of it's about Vivaldi. And I won't talk about it too much, but I do think I'm going to be, if I'm going to be vlogging, because I was like, I can't make videos because I have too much going on right now. And then I was like, no, that's the whole idea, Fergus. The idea is you just film what's going on. You've forgotten, that's the beauty of this whole hobby, is it does itself, kind of. So I'll probably be talking about that a lot as I go forward, so you should probably have that information. Anyway, so I got this opportunity arose for me to go to Venice and just stay there for a few days and meet some people, see some archives, find out some stuff. So I'm going to do that in 2 days, and I'm the imposter syndrome. I feel like it's such an amazing opportunity, but it did come up like slightly earlier in the planning and writing process than I would have planned it had I planned it. Just because I feel like I'm still in very early stages of like not entirely knowing what it is I need to know or not knowing what I don't know. So I'm kind of trying to scramble together like oh shit, if it's raining I need to get my laundry in. Hold on a goddamn minute. We're sitting down. Laundry saved, we're sitting down. So that's where I'm at. I'm up, I'm awake, I'm trying to get my shit together, I'm trying to find out everything I can about 17th century composer as fast as possible. I'm having crazy digestive problems, but I just feel like my stomach tends to hurt, like it's directly correlated with like how well my life is going. Like when I'm my most fabulous, I have the most stomach problems. I think stomach problems are just the cost of greatness. Because everything else in life has been going very well. My body's a little bit falling apart, but not so much that I can't have a hell of a time. And that's all I ask. I'm becoming Tanya from Mamma Mia more and more with each passing fucking second. Building on all that pentacle nonsense I was talking about in my last video, I do feel like I'm in this, with each passing day, with each passing week, I'm becoming a lot better at like, I keep being in situations where it's like super fish out of water. I feel like moving to a new country and like a new culture, a new language, etc. is a very fish out of water situation. And I think I have been kind of like, a little bit stunned by it. And just in the last week even, I've been in situations where people have been like, this is your first time in this whole scenario? And I'm like, yeah. And they're just like, you seem so weirdly calm. I think it is something to do with Joan Didion's self-respect essay, which I was talking to my friend about last night on like the phone. And which, like, this is a side note and maybe a controversial statement, but I don't think I think a lot of people who are talking about that essay have not read that essay or like haven't gotten it maybe. Not to say that I get things. I often don't. I'm just going through this weird era of my life where I'm like my brain has like finally understood that like I don't have to fear the fact that my actions have consequences. There's like this way in which I finally, like my brain has kind of finally gotten its head around the fact that like we are all immensely powerful in our day-to-day, like we all have free will. We are exercising it all the time. So if we do something different, it's not like we're going into this like other bonkers universe where like anything could happen because we've like lost our grip on like this nice little conveyor belt we're on. Like every day we're just moving and doing things. So we can just do other things. And by doing the other things, I don't like leave the cinematic reality that I'm in and enter another one. I just continue to wield the same power that I wielded over my life when I was doing the things that were in my comfort zone. It's like neutral. But in the other scenario, it's like I'm just doing more interesting things. It's almost just like I'm having more fun being the like conductor of the plot of my life. Like I'm just making a more interesting story, but there's no, like the world doesn't shatter when you go off course. what am I talking about? Who's to fucking say? I know someone in Dublin who has a picture in their house, and I think it's a quote from the Marx Brothers, and it's like, the secret to happiness is not to get too emotionally involved in your own life. And tongue in cheek, obviously. But I do genuinely think that I am someone who is very in their intellectual, I don't mean like intellectual like, I'm so smart, but like in the intellectual life more. Because obviously I've been bedridden from almost all of my adult life. You know, not the whole time, but a lot. And so, of course, my relationship with the world and reality has really been filtered through thoughts and media and art, and that is where so much of my reality has lied. When you start to learn a second, third, or fourth language, like every time you learn a new language, I don't know if this happens to you, but I feel like my Spanish isn't even getting that much better, but my English is getting worse because nothing seems real or intuitive to me anymore. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I think I just like a lot of my conversations, I get a lot of what I get excited about, even with my very close friends, like a lot of when we talk and we're really like having so much fun and getting so excited, it's often not gossip, it's often like sort of, we're often not talking about like stuff that happened in our lives and plots in our lives that we're like really transfixed by. It's often more like we're talking about like the films we want to make, the books we want to write, the books we've read, the films we've seen, like this kind of stuff, like thoughts about life or whatever, but in this very like separate way. And it's funny because in the last little while I found it kind of hard I feel like for one of the first times I've become so emotionally involved in my own life that like the intellectual life or like all the stuff that I usually really care about feels ever so slightly cold. It's interesting because people always think artists and people who are into the arts and all these kind of topics are so emotional. They're these like really emotionally connected things. Whereas actually something I've been thinking a lot this week is like the writer's brain or like the artist's brain is actually quite a cold brain because you are thinking about the world in terms of symbols and form and structure and ideas and story instead of just being like in it with your whole chest and your like gut, you know? It's very Charles Bukowski about this whole way I'm talking right now, but like please let's just not think about that. Because what I really aspire to is to have like an artisty brain or like a writery brain as like a genre in the way that like a Buddhist brain is a type of thinking. So like what I mean by that is let's take an example. Miss Deborah. This book came out this week, last week, I don't know. In one of her earlier books, she has this line I think about a lot. I think it's in one of her memoirs where she talks about how, you know, she's talking about what's happening in her life or whatever, but she's also talking about how she's like preoccupied by this idea that that the Holloway Road in London could be like the Adriatic Sea. And this is just something she's thinking about. Like, but what if the Holloway Road in London is like the Adriatic Sea? How is it like the Adriatic Sea? Like, you know, and she's going through life just having these thoughts. And it kind of reminds me of like my mom, who's an artist, who has all these thoughts about like line. And there's no good and bad lines, there's only interesting lines. And does the line have integrity? And the wind is a line, and so insofar as it goes from one direction to the other. And if the wind is a line, then is the wind also a drawing? But if the wind is a drawing and nobody drew it, then what's a drawing and what's a line? Like, these are the kind of thoughts that are so like, I bastardized that, but that's the kind of conversations that we'd be having, which I think probably explains if you were confused about what, that's why. But I don't know, these are like hot. I just feel like I'm like, that's like to me, that's like the purest. There's something so unvain about these thoughts. Not only are these creative thoughts, not only are these, I would say, clearly extremely beautiful thoughts, like just in terms of, there's something just philosophically beautiful about them. They're also just completely unrelated to the self-image. They're just like, there's like a playful curiosity about the world and seeing the world in this kind of non-literal, playful, interesting way. And like, it makes me think about, in My Brilliant Friend, how Elena talks about Leela's intelligence as like, she's good at connecting things. Like Elena can know all this stuff and read all these things and have all this opinion, but only Leela is able to draw connections. And I thought that was such a beautiful way of describing a type of intelligence, like people who can draw connections. And I think, if anything, my fear is that my brain is never going to be interesting enough or to come up with connections like the Holloway Road is like the Adriatic Sea or the wind is a line, you know? But I also think that comes with maturity, because I do think there's like an intrinsic vanity and self-awareness to youth I'm really talking. I'm really yapping right now, huh? Anyway, if you're still here, hi. I think a lot of young people and creative people, but in any field, it doesn't matter who you are, if you write, like, there's a certain level of still sort of being like, well, no, like I haven't, you know, we're early in our life. We still feel this huge pressure to prove ourselves. And as you get older, I think you understand that isn't real. But I think that's a knowledge that like you can't, even though obviously I intellectually know that, I can articulate to you now that by the time I'm 40, like God willing that I live to 40, you know, I'll know that that a lot of the concerns or the worries in my head now are fake. And it's kind of like, but if you already know that you're going to know that at 40, why can't you just know that now? And it's like there's an intellectual knowing and there's like a lived knowing, I think. And I think that's also been something so fun about this like last little period of life, is seeing how many things are coming to me as these enormous like embodied realizations that have made my life so much easier and so much lighter and so much funner, that I actually would have, if I said them out loud, like if I could say them out loud to myself at like 24, it wouldn't make a goddamn ounce of difference, because you have to just know from the body, not from the mind. But yeah, so on one level I'm like, I want to be making work that has such a, that's so, because I also think the beautiful thing about the Holloway Road in the Adriatic Sea as an idea is that she doesn't tie a bow on it. And like, I also think that's the real level of intelligence and sophistication within the arts, when someone just is able to draw these beautiful connections in the world and then leave them open. And then because you can leave them open, you can keep building on them, and these, it's kind of like, it's like a feng shui to the writing where everything can just fly through it. And my writing's very closed. I tend to sort of give everything a little punchline. And I was writing in my journal the other day that like, I don't know that that's actually like a poetic skill as much as it's just sort of a party trick. Like I think I am very good at punchlines. You know what I mean? Like off the top of my head, I could be like, you could finish the Adriatic Sea, could be the Holloway Road thing with a kind of a like, I don't know, our odysseys are no less profound for having taken place on concrete. You know what I mean? But like that's just a party trick. It's so much more interesting to leave things open, and that's the kind of restraint that I aspire to. I think I'm thinking about all this because I'm trying to like, I have this project in my mind and I'm working towards it really slowly. I tend to jump in more to writing stuff, and this one I'm trying to like really think about how I'm going to enter it. I feel like I'm sizing myself up a little, and I'm kind of understanding everything I've done up until now. Some of you will know that I lost a lot of my writing catalogue recently, and I think it's been kind of like this weird liberating thing where I'm like, okay, but like I didn't lose I lost all the documents, but I didn't lose the hours of practice, and I almost feel this clean slate, and I'm kind of almost having this thing of like, okay, now that was all really fun, but now I want to show up as someone who makes things that like I would actually admire and enjoy in a very like real way, and just kind of like go for it and like aim, like cater to my own tastes, because I think there's like a real thing with creativity where like your tastes are always higher than your skill, because your skill chases your taste, and like as you gain an intelligence about your like medium, your like taste is expanding and your understanding is expanding, but like your skill isn't. It's the same with language. The best language learning advice I ever got was that at the very beginning, when you know nothing and you start to learn a little bit, you feel so smart because you can speak more. You can speak, you know, more than you ever could. Obviously, moments ago you couldn't say any Spanish. Now you can like order a coffee or whatever. You're feeling really good about yourself. But as you get better and better and better, there comes a point where you can understand it really well and you still can't speak it well. And it feels like you're getting worse each day because you can hear your own mistakes. Like your hearing is good enough that you know exactly how the sentence was supposed to sound, and it comes out of your mouth, and you can realize, like, you know, you used the wrong type of past tense, or your word order was bad, or you pronounced something bad, or you fumbled something. And that's the bit that's impossible to get through, because I really feel like 10 months ago, I was like, my Spanish is pretty good, and now I'm like, I can't speak, like, I really am like, I can't speak a word of this. Like, it's like I just got off the boat yesterday. But I think that's just a weird perception, like relativity sort of thing. Yeah, anyway, all this to say that I've been like thinking about how I want like my brain to just be a little bit more sophisticated. Like, I've been thinking a lot about thinking like a writer, but I've also then at the same time been thinking like, also that's quite a cold way to think, and there's also space in life for not thinking at all. And maybe in some ways part of my problem has been that I've been trying to do the same. I've been living somewhere in between, but maybe it's better to be living the kind of life where you have these really, where there's like, you allow there to be more inconsistency. I'm really like into inconsistency right now. I was also saying this to someone where I was like, I think part of what's happening again, this is very Joan Didion self-respect, but I think part of what's happening is like, I feel in this moment like I know myself and trust myself enough that I can be messy. I don't need to second guess my impulses and worry if I'm doing the right thing, because it's like, I feel like I know who I am, but I also feel like I am centered enough that I can travel far away and come back with a lot of ease, more so than before. Before, it felt like every time I traveled a little bit away and I tried something out and I put myself in a situation that was unusual, or like tried on a different, it was like, what if, you know, maybe I'll explore this idea, like maybe I could be someone who likes this sort of thing or whatever. I found it very hard to like work my way back. I would get very lost out there in the reeds of sort of peripheral selfhood or whatever the fuck, and now I'm kind of like more like a boomerang. In my last video I said I just quit coffee, and I clearly am back on it, and that shit is hitting me like a drug. It's probably why my stomach problems are so bad. I haven't been very productive because I've been in the convulsions. I've been in the convulsions of life. Joan would be proud of me, although probably not, because she was actually quite conservative. I want to read you this. So I've been kind of in the convulsions, but I'm also trying to keep like one little hand in the intellectual world, especially because I'm supposed to be doing this project like on Thursday, and I'm supposed to be I'm gonna have to have a conversation with like some fucking Venetians soon, and I can't get my head in the game because I'm too enthralled by the intrinsic romance of my existence. But like we're in our highest era, kind of. Anyway, but I also kind of feel like I'm killing it, and I kind of feel like I'm in a François Sagan novel half the time, and everything's marvelous. This is a passage from this book that I want to read to you, because I also just think I loved it. And it was one of the things this week that really inspired me and made me think about people who make work and people who make work with themselves, and also kind of what I'm thinking of doing with my Substack, which is another whole conversation. But anyway, she's writing about the photographer Francesca Woodman, and she's actually talking about this photograph. Okay, listen to this. Look at her. There she is. She is all there. She is all there, but she is always trying to make herself disappear. To become vapor, a spectre, a smudge, a blur, a subject that is erased yet recognizable. She knows we know she's there, and by constructing techniques to make herself disappear, she knows she makes herself bigger. She makes herself bigger because we are searching for her. The artist, Francesca Woodman, has given us something to find. It's a dance, a theory, perhaps a Lacanian theory, a fiction, a provocation, an experiment, a joke, a serious question. Francesca Woodman, like all girls and women, wants to escape the frame. Also, as I was reading it, I noticed that I lost my nail polish. I've been painting my nails red every day, and I noticed that some of my nail polish came off on this page, and it reminded me of the film Les Amours d'Anaïs, where the older woman talks about how like her most prized possession is this like really sensual copy of Lolstein by Marguerite Duras, and how she was given to it by her teacher, and how it had annotations, but it also had nail polish marks on it. And it's one of my favorite things ever, because I was like, what is gayer than being like, nothing more romantic has ever happened to me than a woman lending me a book and it having nail polish on it. So that's just like that was a quick whiz through my mental landscape. I have to go return a duvet cover that I bought, which is accidentally a single duvet. I have to get a new inhaler. I have to get a copy of a book for a friend, because I know she would like it. So yeah, we're gonna do some errands. We're going to do some errands in Barcelona. And then we're gonna get to work. Allegedly.